Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, I'll be your host. When somebody mentions a fantasy role playing game, the first thing that pops into people's mind is usually Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is by far the most famous of all role playing games, but it is not the only fantasy role playing game. And in this video, we're going to talk about another fantasy role playing game. We're going to talk about the Warhammer Fantasy Role Playing Game First Edition. On the cover of this book, it says it is a grim world of perilous adventure. And it's pretty much right. This book has 364 pages and a copyright of 1995, and it was published by Games Workshop. The artwork in this book is all in black and white, and it's pretty decent. So let's go ahead and look at that artwork.
All of the artwork in this book is in black and white, with some of the pictures in this book being full-page pictures, while others are small pictures going along with what is being explained. All in all, the pictures in this book do a great job of setting the grim and perilous tone for this game.
To play this game, what you're going to need is a copy of this core rule book and a full set of dice. Full set of dice, which contains a 20-sided die, a 12-sided die, preferably two 10-sided dice for rolling both percentiles and tens, an 8-sided die, a 6-sided die, and a 4-sided die. But pretty much the only dice you're going to use while playing this game is the percentile die and the 6-sided die. The other dice you'll use pretty much in character generation and the odd roll every now and again, but mostly it'll just be the percentile and the 6. The character creation in this book can look kind of intimidating at first glance, but it's pretty easy. The first thing you got to do is look at your attributes. There are 14 attributes in this game. The attributes are movement, weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, wounds, initiative, attacks, dexterity, leadership, intelligence, cool, willpower, and fellowship. Most of these attributes are percentiles, and the other ones are a static number ranging between 1 and 10. The way you generate them is different depending on what race you are. The races you can pick for your characters in this game are humans, elves, dwarves, and halflings. Each of these races gives you a different number of dice to roll for each of your attributes. And there's a chart in here that gives those die rolls for you. The next thing you'll pick is your alignment. Like Dungeons & Dragons, this game has alignments. The alignments in this game are law, good, neutral, evil, and chaos. After your alignment, you're going to want to determine your career class. The career classes are warriors, rangers, rogues, and academics. And each of these career classes gives you a number of skills that you gain immediately at character creation. When you enter a new career class later on, you'll have to buy them individually with your experience points. But at character creation, you get them for free. Each of these career classes have trappings, which is equipment, that at character creation you get immediately. If you enter it later on, you'll have to buy. The skills in this game are pretty easy to determine. You roll a d4 and check an age chart. The age chart has all the different ages on it, and depending on how old you're going to start your character at, it'll modify that d4 roll, and that's how many skills you get to pick for free. It doesn't count against the skills you get automatically for your basic career. but you get those 4 skills, and different races have certain skills that have to be picked immediately, and those take away from your D4 roll. But anything left over, you get a pick on your own, a free pick. And like I said, each career path has each career class has different careers associated with it, and you can either pick one of those, or you can roll it randomly at character creation, which is kind of nifty. It's kind of random, and after you get that determined, like I said, it gives you some automatic skills at character creation and your trappings, and it also has some advancements for your attributes. What that means is that on your character sheet, you have 3 lines of attributes. Now that sounds confusing, I know, but it's not. The first line is your starting attributes. Once you get your character created and you start the game, that's what goes in that line. The second line of attributes is the advances that come with your current career. And these will either be a +10 for the percentile attributes or a +1 for the static number attributes. And what this means is that as you gain experience, you can spend that experience to raise the attribute by that much while you're in that career class. Now, the little bit of confusing part comes in the fact that if, let's say, in your ballistic skill, you raise it +10%, and then you pick a new career later on, and that career has a +10 for you to add in your ballistic skill. You can't buy that because you've already raised your ballistic skill by 10%. It's null and void. It cancels it out. But if the new skill has a +20% or a +30% for an advance, you can then advance it those. But once it's advanced once, you can't advance it again unless it's greater than your previous advancement. The third line is your current attributes after advances. And I know that sounds confusing, but in gameplay it actually is pretty easy. But as your character advances and you get all the things you can buy in a career, there are career exits with each career, and you can buy a new career for 100 experience points, or 300 if you're going to buy outside of your your class options. There are also advanced careers, and if you meet the requirements, you can exit out into one of those, which is pretty neat. The last 2 things you do for character creation is you have fate points. Each race has a different number of fate points that they gain at character creation. And what a fate point does is if you take a massive hit and are going to die, you can spend a fate point in order to save your character's life or avoid some detrimental damage caused by a critical hit. But once you spend a fate point, it's gone. It doesn't regenerate. So they're pretty precious. Now, you can gain more fate points in gameplay due to divine intervention or game master say so, but those are very rare occasions. The last part is you get 1 free advancement for one of your attributes, and it doesn't count against raising it due to career path, which is kind of nifty. But there is a chapter in here devoted to equipment, armors, and weapon, and your armor will defend different parts of your body, depending on what type of armor you buy, and certain ones will stack. Like you could wear a chain shirt under a breastplate, so forth. And your weapons, they'll add a +1 to your damage, or a +2, which sounds low, but damage works kind of weird. We'll get to that in a minute. The combat section in this book is pretty detailed. And the combat, there's a little bit more to it, but it is pretty easy. The way combat works in this game is you roll a percentile, and you compare it to either your weapon skill or your ballistic skill. And you need to roll equal to or less than your skill. And if you do so, you hit. If you roll over it, you miss. On a hit, you roll a d6 plus your strength, and you take that and you minus whatever the target's toughness is. Whatever's left is how much damage you do, and that damage is subtracted from the target's wounds. Once the wounds are all gone on the target, that's when the real damage starts happening, and it's called a critical hit. A critical hit is pretty nasty. You take what you rolled to hit on your percentile and you switch the numbers. So a 72 would be a 27. And you compare it to a little chart they have, and it tells you what location you hit on that character. Or right arm, left leg, right leg, body, head, so forth. And after you determine where you hit them, you check another chart, which you just roll a percentile on it, and however many wounds you do beyond 0, cross-reference with your percentile roll, and it'll give you a number. You go to the location you hit, arm, leg, head, body, and look up that number. And the numbers will be from 1 to 16. And the higher the number, the worse off the target is. It could be an instant kill, or you could take off an arm, gouge out an eye, do brain damage, cause them to have breathing problems due to lung damage. Really nasty stuff. And that's where your fate points come in to save the character's life. And that's pretty much it on combat. You can also acquire insanity points for your character as you play. And the way that works is every time your character takes a critical hit or experiences some otherworldly horror or some other dramatic experience as decided by the game master, you get an insanity point. And once you acquire 6 insanity points, you must make a cool check. If you succeed at that check, nothing happens. But if you fail, then you automatically gain a derangement and you lose the 6 insanity points. And then you start acquiring more insanity points. If you succeed and nothing happens, then you have to make another check as soon as you gain another one. But that makes sense. After that, you have a chapter on magic. And magic is pretty neat in this game. There are a couple of career paths, a couple of the careers that you can get that actually can cast petty magic spells, and they get a number of magic points to cast the spells. And the way this works is in the magic section, you have a list of all the spells, and the spells, each one has a different number of points that have to be spent before the spell can be cast. And the more powerful the spell, the more points that need to be spent. In the magic chapter as well, it's got a few advanced classes of its own, and those would be like the wizard, the necromancer, the priest, the illusionist. And magic is broken up into both divine and wizard spells. Priests can only cast divine spells and not wizard spells, and wizards can only cast wizardly spells and not divine spells. And the necromancers and illusionists and stuff count as wizards, but they're specialty wizards. And each of these classes have 4 levels to them. And the way you gain a level in those classes is the same way you would advance into a new career. So that's kind of neat. Kind of simplifies everything. And for each new level, you get more magic points and access to more powerful magic. At first level wizard, you can cast first level magic spells and petty magic spells. At second level, you can cast second level, first level, and petty magic, and so forth. So that's pretty cool. Then you have a chapter in here on the gods, and there's a pretty neat selection of gods in this game, and it's fun to look at. Then there's a section here that has a map of the world that you'll be playing in, and a description of the different places you can visit, and a history for the overall land, which is pretty neat. There's a bestiary, so you have creatures that you can fight and interact with, stuff like orcs, beastmen, snotlings, the jabberwock, and a bunch of other nasties for you to encounter. They're towards the back of the book. They have a collection of the charts that can be found in this book for easier access, and a list of the career paths again, only more condensed down, giving you the basics of what you can purchase in them. There is some adventures in here to get you started, some pre-made adventures, and in the very back, a blank character sheet that you can photocopy and use. It's a pretty good book. Which brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character in this game? Absolutely. This is a cool game. I like this game a lot. I would play it. Would I run this game? Yes, I would, and yes, I have. This game is a really good alternative to Dungeons & Dragons. It's a bit grittier. Life expectancy for the characters is a little bit shorter, but it is overall fun. Would I recommend this game? Absolutely. This game has everything you would want in a grittier, more dangerous version of Dungeons & Dragons. And it is pretty good. There are 4 editions of this game. All I know about is the first edition, because that's all I own, that's all I ever played. But the first edition is well worth looking up if you can get your hands on it. And that's pretty much all I have to say for Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing First Edition. Thank you for joining me at a look at this game, and hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.